What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here for Your Overwatch. In today's video, I invited my buddy Samito to come on and talk to me about the state of Echo now that we've had a few days of ranked play with her. Samito's a former pro player, famous for his skills on Doomfist, Hanzo, Genji, and Brigitte. He's been grinding the character and is a great source for checking out high-level Echo gameplay. You can check out his link in the description. He'll have some guides on the character coming out soon. I'm sure the power level Echo discussion is going to be quite controversial for the Overwatch community because, well, she's not an easy character, but the potential power is incredibly high, undoubtedly, I think. So even if she were to be deemed too good, is that fair due to how much skills required to play her? So let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Without further ado, let's jump into discussing Echo with Samito.
Let's start with fun gameplay. I think Echo is definitely very fun to play. She's got a very unique style. She's kind of like a Pharah, Doomfist, Genji hybrid in that sense, in terms of like how she plays. She's got the mobility of Pharah, if not better mobility than Pharah, but the cooldown management of Doomfist and the poke ability of Genji kind of farming ult and stuff like that. I think she's very unique, and I think Blizzard did a great job of like conceptualizing this character and applying it to the game in a fun, healthy way. Now, in terms of meta, I greatly undervalued Echo Mercy. I think it's actually a better version of Pharmacy, but its purpose isn't the same as Pharah is supposed to be poke. Echo is kind of a mid-fight assassin. In that sense, I think this week especially, she goes really well with Dive because she has the ability to like bust tanks, assassinate squishies. She kind of does everything pretty well, not like broken OP, but her ultimate is concerning in the sense that you get 3 lives upon using it, right? Like, if it ends up being OP, which we can't tell yet, because I think the most important thing to wait for is McCree and Widow coming back into the hero pool, because I think those are the 2 best characters to play into Echo, McCree especially. But if she appears to be too strong in forcing the meta, it'll probably be because of her ultimate. We already know what happens when you play the game outside of 2-2-2, right? Like, you had goats, you had all these metas where, you know, it just dominated the game for a very long time, and Echo's ability to break that rule set makes her really strong. On top of that, being able to fly in, transform into a character, die as that character, come out as fully restored Echo, cooldowns and everything. So I think maybe if it's too strong to start, what we need to do is make it so that you come out of the ult how you went into the ult, cooldowns and everything. So if you burned your cooldowns, you won't have them back right away.
The thing I've noticed as well is that team fights have an added level of stall that we've like never seen before with those 15 seconds. Echo sort of brings the game back to the stall-tastic gameplay we had, you know, a few versions of 2CP ago, if you remember, right? Like, those team fights could last forever when like Mei jumps on and freezes, and there's still a little bit of that left without Echo, but I feel like Echo just adds a whole bunch more to that, if you know what I mean. So that's sort of like a general point. That's a meta aside, but
yeah, for sure. I think that definitely could be problematic down the line. The good news is you have to be really smart to play Echo, right? Like, you need to understand each role thoroughly if you're going to get value from these things. So that's, you know, definitely look towards that. But I think with burst damage hero, I think McCree is the best burst damage hero in the game right now. With him coming back into the pool, it might be a different situation. We'll see though. In terms of the meta, aside from that, here's why Echo will fit into the meta. I don't know if she'll force the meta, right? Here's why. She can do everything pretty well. Her shield break is really good because if you use the beam on the barrier when it's under half, she can compete with McCree and Soldier and all these other heroes. She's just not great at initiating that. In the double shield meta, all I'm really doing is if a team goes Orisa Sigma, I'm flying up in the air, waiting for the Orisa pool, popping my rockets past the shield on an off angle, right? Then their shields will be low. You come down, you beam the shield down, and you can still break and do enough damage to contest that. With Dive, you can follow up on assassinations really easily because if somebody's being dove, your target priority with your focus beam is essential. I think her focus beam is generally what's going to allow her to fit into anything, which is why I don't think she'll force a meta like you saw traditional Dive, right? Like Tracer was good and Diva was good. So you saw like Monkey Diva, Tracer, Genji, Mercy Zen everywhere, right? I don't think that's the case with Echo. I don't think a specific comp needs to be forced with her, but she fits well into everything and can be played everywhere.
So this is where I sit on the power level of Echo, and I feel like I've changed my opinion on this like 3 times. It's tough. Every time I perceive a new area of the game, it sort of shapes the information that I'm gaining. So at one level, she's not a character that gets any passive value at all, right? And that there's so many characters in the game that do that, even in the DPS position, that automatically that means the skill floor is at a certain level where you have to have some degree of competency with her to get any value out of her at all. I'm sure a lot of ranked players over the past couple days have had teammates trying out Echo or learning Echo and just doing absolutely nothing. But on the other hand, I feel skill ceiling wise, because as you said, she kind of can do everything. She has, I think, too flexible of a playstyle for my liking. Well, you bring up a really good point though about McCree. The counter to Echo, and this is a good tip for everybody, she actually has possibly the biggest head hitbox of any character of her model size, where she looks like Mercy, but she has a head hitbox like Ashe and maybe even bigger. So much so that hit scans can pop her right out of the sky, or even Genji jumping on her like alternate fire. It's really easy to hit multiple shurikens on her midair, oddly enough. Like you feel like that's a difficult play like on a Pharah, jumping up to her and contesting her, but against Echo, it's actually not as hard as it sounds because the hitbox is so big. But with McCree and Widow out of the pool, I feel Echo is can do everything. I think you probably should be playing Echo all the time right now in this pool, which makes it a little tricky to for me to accurately judge where she's at, because once McCree does come in, I mean, High Noon got buffed and buffed to like superpower levels, so anytime she flies up, right, High Nooning her out of the sky is going to be insane. And I think another amplifier to Echo's play is high level Mercy play, and if you've got a good Mercy, all of a sudden Echo now is on a whole nother level in a playstyle that only gets contested when McCree and Widow are in the pool, right? That's going to drastically change her power level, but at least right now I think she's insane, and here's the reasons why. She has the spam playstyle of Pharah, but also the dive bomb playstyle of Doomfist with the cooldowns that she has. Her movement is insane. It's more free, and I think getting that burst of movement right away with the vertical jump is a little much for me. I think that's like Doomfist levels of hard to hit and hard to track. Like, she does it and I have no idea where she is constantly because it just jumps over my head. And then she's got the burst range damage with sticky bombs, and then 15 shots of tribal. Okay, I that's low key is way too good in my opinion. I can't believe I didn't see this coming, because I'm like, oh, tribal, it's hard to hit, whatever. But if you think to any other DPS character, they have to reload way more. So Farah's got 6 shots, so does McCree. Tri-shot can like bully Winston's very easily because you get angles all the time. I think the combination of the fact that she gets whatever positioning she wants, again, that changes when hit scans are back, but she can play any position on the battlefield. It's not like Doomfist where he's only going to be a threat to you at close range, or Pharah, you know, she's got like 2 plays. Like, maybe she dive bombs you, it's a risk, but most of the time she's spamming. Echo like fluidly can move throughout all the different types of engagements Overwatch presents, and then has the most flexible ult in the game with Duplicate, which I love as a concept. The skill ceiling of Duplicate really shows like max level Overwatch skill, because there's so many things you can do, right? You do all these different Echo things, and then all of a sudden you jump out as the right character at the right time to clutch the point, whether it's like sometimes maybe you want to grab a support to add sustain to your stall, or a tank and get that, or get a DPS and you see Kabaji getting like multi-kills with Pulse Bomb just cleaning up a fight. Like, you always can get the right things. Originally, I thought Echo was going to be like Genji level power level, in that too hard to play, a bit easier to counter. I might feel that way when McCree comes back, but right now, I actually think I was way off with that, and she's way better than that. I don't know if you disagree or agree, but because Duplicate is so flexible, I don't feel she's forced into a lane where she's easy to counter. Like, whatever you go at her with, she's going to be able to adjust to counteract, at least in this hero pool, if that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. I said initially that Echo was not at Genji power level. I said she was in between Genji and Doomfist, probably closer to Doomfist. Mostly because of what she could do mid-fight. Like, she's a Genji at less risk, and her sticky bombs are really good. To talk about what you said, though, with her primary fire, I mean, there's clips of me one-tapping full HP Winstons when they dive me and I win at 17 HP. Like, granted, I hit every single ability on him and he misuses cooldowns, sure. But at the same time, if we feel like that's too strong, I think maybe making that 12 shots is fine. But again, like, I don't really want to change her yet until we see how she plays into McCree Brigitte. I talked to my coach, John, formerly NYXL Academy and now Triumph Gaming, and he said that Echo was a brig counter, a hard counter. And if you think about it, she kind of is, right? Because she has the ranged poke of Pharah, like you said, but the assassination ability of Doomfist and Genji. And if you focus beam the brig shield, I think it just automatically breaks because of how much health the shield is. I might be wrong there. But if you put a sticky bomb on top of that too, it's like it hard counters Brig. So, you know, that would be a good thing to disable Echo with Brig McCree. But generally, I think you're right. The main point of concern I have, though, is her ultimate. Because again, like you said, the skill ceiling of her is pretty much immeasurable. And that's what I love about the character, right? Like no one in ranked is going to be able to pick up this character and just dominate a game, right? It's just not going to happen. The sticky bombs are too hard to hit. The primary fire is too hard to hit. Granted, you get used to it over time. It ultimately will come down to her ultimate and the 3 lives it gives you. That's the focusing point that I want to look at going into balancing her in the future. I think it's a little too soon to tell, but that's what Blizzard should be looking at, and that's what we all should be looking at as a community.
We may feel completely different about this when hit scans are back, able to dink the Mercy out of the sky. Because I didn't speak too much about it, but so I'll expand. But Mercy being able to pocket her properly is something that I didn't think about enough, I think, originally, because at least with the hit scans we have now, like hit scans normally would counter her, but there's ranges she can play at where with a pocket she just can't die, right? Unless it's a McCree or Widow, essentially. And that's sort of a problem for like the balance of the game, where if Mercy was banned, let's say, I think Echo like is way worse. Like it's not even close, right? Because then she'll look like Genji in the way that like he's very easy to be managed, I think. And that's the weird thing about Overwatch right now, is that they're trying to add these hero pools in to sort of shake things up, but it really makes lopsided matchups sometimes, especially when you introduce a new hero like this that breaks all the rules that we have already established. It's also exciting at the same time.
As an Echo player, it's very exciting. I'll tell you this again, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Playing Echo without a Mercy pocket is so hard. If they have an Echo pocketed by a Mercy, and like my team doesn't have a Mercy player, like they have a Lucio one trick or something, like they, you know, doing whatever, like it's noticeably more difficult. So to top that off when the McCree comes back, it's like you're just gonna have to change playstyles. I don't think that's what they should take away. I think the mid fight that Echo has is what makes her unique and takes the most skill and will be less damaging to the game. If they should look to nerf anything, it should definitely be the value the ultimate gets. There's just never been a character that can do what Echo can do mid fight, and that to me is what's super rewarding and fluid as a DPS player. As a guy who finished, you know, I think I'm ranked 25 right now on her. That's what makes her fun, and the ultimate is a little bit more gimmicky. Well, I think they can take the gimmick out of the ultimate and her character would be fine where it is. But again, it's up to them. They can take it whatever direction they want. But the main thing I can stress to you and anybody who's watching is do not judge this hero from this week. It's like playing Doomfist without Brig and McCree and Widow in the game. He's going to look beyond overpowered, way better than he actually is and way more consistent than he actually is. And I'm not saying Doom doesn't need changes. Don't quote me on that one. In fact, I've got plenty of ideas for changes to Doom, but this is not an accurate way to judge Echo's power levels with McCree and Widow out of the game.
I think I figured it out. As a Doomfist player who gets kills on cooldown, that's why you want Echo to have a powerful mid-fight, and you don't want to see her go down the route of Genji. As a tank player, I love Genji being weak because I just bully him with every character I play. So
that's true. The good news about Echo is that she's not like Doomfist mid-fight. That's why I have her below Doomfist, because I don't think she can turn a fight as easily as him, in the sense that like he comes in, boom, and you're just hit with it, right? There's no way to counterplay it. There's a little bit more counter sticky bombs. They're not like a one shot every time. They're hard to land. And her cooldowns are way less frustrating to play against because they don't physically move you, right? Like you could still like shooter for shooter game, you know, rather than MOBA game for shooter. So I think, I don't know. I do want her mid fight to be strong because I feel like the mid fight of the game is something that we should look to improve on in Overwatch.
Fair enough. That's a very reasonable opinion. I think you had some ideas for nerfing Duplicate. I don't know if you said that in this call yet. What are some ways that they could go about nerfing Duplicate? I think that's a very healthy way to go about it, for sure.
Yeah. So there's two approaches that Blizzard could have. If the sustain is the issue, which I think it might be, basically nerf it so that Echo, to start, because we don't know if this is going to break it or not, to start, the Echo leaves Duplicate in the state that she went into it, right? So you don't come out, you don't go in, get to 1 HP, pop it last second, and then come out at full health, all your cooldowns, right? If you would just use your fly, you wouldn't have your fly. It essentially stops time from where you were, and it just takes you right back out in the state that you were in. So it's not literally that third life. If you were screwed going into the ultimate, you're going to be screwed coming out of the ultimate.
Just like Doomfist when he uses his ult, right? You can call him and
actually,
let's say
perfect.
The Doom's low, he's running away, right? Like that, there should be that element of counterplay. Whereas now, if she's on the objective, you have to kill her, right? There, you have no option. But really, you should kind of almost ignore her or disable her. Really, you want to sleep her, basically. And so that she can't get ults while in Duplicate form, because otherwise, like, she's just pulls so many resources out. And that might be a bit of something that takes some learning of the community of how to properly deal with duplicate. And once you do disable her with, you know, whatever it is, I don't know, hack or sleep or whatever comes up to be good, then it might not look as good. But definitely right now, as you're saying, the extra life thing where she comes back out of it with all of her cooldowns intact, unlike Doomfist, means that she's just tanky as a TPS, which she looks like Genji, but she's tanky like, you know, Doom in that way.
The thing about Doomfist that's different is that he actually regenerates his cooldowns while in Meteor Strike, but he doesn't regenerate his health, and that might be just the easiest way to do it to start, right? I'm not sure what they'd want to do with her fly. I think we can test it out and it would be fine. But I think that should be the starting point for Echo, because that's how she kind of gets, I don't want to say free value, but it essentially forces the other team to respond to you. Right. And I think that's what might be a little bit on the OP side. If you don't do anything other than and just because you use your ability, you force that much out of a team, that could be problematic, especially when the ult already breaks the rules of the game. That's the sustain part. If you wanted to go to the efficiency part, you're like, okay, as you'll probably see in the footage in the back somewhere, you know, I swap Doom and get 2 meteor strikes in like 6 seconds and kill an entire team. If you think that's OP, okay, you know, we'll tune back on the charge rate of how fast you can build your ultimate, which honestly, I don't think that's as much of an issue as the sustain, but it's one option. Again, like I want to focus on the duplicate, not her mid-fight yet. But if you want to change her mid-fight, I think maybe lower the cap of the beam damage, but increase the base slightly. So it's not super OP when you're using it, which I don't think it is. Like it's very situational. You have times where it does nothing and then times where it pops off. So I would like to wait on her mid-fight and continue to focus on duplicate first.
Yeah, the crazy thing to me is that after all of the nerfs and them really removing some of the outrageous movement she had on the PTR, I mean, a lot of players maybe have not even seen that. It was fun, but I still feel like the movement is pretty darn good considering she can fly around normally and gets a burst of movement vertically. Like I'm not a fan of that. Like, you know, DPS players, you guys have been complaining about Mercy super jump, and I feel Echo has one where she's just really hard to hit in that way, and almost more free when flying than Pharah, because Pharah's got a very predictable like ebb and flow with the jets or whatever they are. You know what I mean? Like hovering her, and
she's better Pharah.
She flies like Valk, whereas Pharah has float. You know what I mean? Like there's momentum to it that you can read and line up your shots. Playing against it, I'm not as much of a fan of the movement because it's harder to lock her down. It really fascinates me anyway, as someone who tries to learn the game, that in PTR, they nerfed her like to oblivion, but then she comes out and then I feel like she might be the strongest character in the game, at least with this hero pool. It surprises me. I feel the same way with like Sigma when he came out, where you have a character that if you don't get value out of everything he does, well, you know, whatever, he's a bad Reinhardt or whatever. But if you do get value out of everything he does, then all of a sudden he's like the best character in the game. I think Echo's kind of similar to that, where she's got so many buttons and so many options that once you maximize it, it's gonna be dominant, but maybe in a good way. These are the type of characters we like to watch. So I don't want to complain too much. Anything that gets Reaper and Mei out of the top tier meta is gonna be better, because Echo's she's a spectacle to watch.
She is. I would describe her as majestic, to be honest with you. I love the character. Like, but to add on what you said, think about it like this. Echo, the reason why it's so strong, I really only think it's because of one purpose, and aside from hero pools, right? We're judging this too early. It's that third life again, and it's literally like Mercy res, like old busted Mercy, right? Like in terms of numbers and stats, you crunched Ana and Mercy from back in the day. Ana probably could heal more. I mean, I'm gonna assume she could, but the value you can get from just being able to res people and essentially getting that second life, that get out of jail free card in a sense, especially with how fast the ultimate builds, it's just super consistent, right? So if we're going to keep it at that level of consistency, we need to turn down the sustained value. But if we want to keep the sustained value, we need to turn down the level of consistency. Personally, I like the consistency aspect of the ult. It's just the sustain, like she get tuned down. That's why it feels so oppressive. You have to kill somebody 3 times in a team fight to win. Like that's going above and beyond, right? Like people aren't used to having to do that. Like that should be, you know, if you put all the resources that you had to put into that Echo that turned into a wrecking ball on the point into the squishies that are behind them, you probably kill 2 or 3 people in a fight sometimes. But with this, it's like, okay, I have to put this here or you lose.
Maybe close it out here a bit. Do you have any like general tips or do you have any videos you like to suggest on your channel that break down how to play Echo better? Because I think a lot of people's opinions on Echo are going to be a lot lower than ours, but it might be based on their teammates playing her pretty poorly and feeding, right? Like her potential is so high, but like you do have to play like a maniac. Like the term cracked gets thrown around in Overwatch a lot, but she's a very cracked character when you max her out, right? Because of how fast you can play and the decision making and target focus. She can really do everything. It's like if Tracer could fly, right? That's how it feels when you're playing her.
Yeah, it's great. It's honestly a flanker's dream. So all you who have loved the playstyle of Genji and Doomfist and Tracer, this is the hero for you. On my channel, I am coming out with an advanced Echo guide with everything that I've learned when I hit 95K subs. So if you guys would drop by and drop a sub, I'd really appreciate that. I'm going to be cranking out content. Then 100K, I'm going to do the unranked GM with Echo. So those are coming. I need to work on it. But quick tips for Echo: cycle your cooldowns, okay? You need to play on what I like to call standby, where it's like you're close enough to do damage in the fight, but mid-range poke, but don't go in until you make something happen, right? Until you get like that triple sticky bomb on somebody, use your fly to get to close the distance and then pop that focus beam, but don't cancel the fly. You need the last 2 seconds to back off. So that's very basic cooldown management, but once we get to 95K on my channel, that's when I'll drop that advanced guide. I'm putting a lot of work into it and thought right now. I'm kind of doing the scripting right now. It's going to be tough, but this character has the highest skill ceiling of any hero ever put in the game. Super majestic character. I think Blizzard did a great job, and once we figure out what we need to tweak about her, I think she's going to be one of the best additions to the game that we've ever seen.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on.
No, thanks for having me, man.